Claire.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Why didn't you tell the boys to come back?
Sorry?
No.
Tell the girls
Sexist.
to come back.
Sexist.
Only told the girls to come back.
Sexist.
Councillor Walker. Deputy Mayor Pulse. Thank you.
Be a proper teacher.
Being a proper teacher.
Yeah, for us natives. Only for us natives.
Are you taking the role now, man?
Right. Thank you.
Good morning, Your Worship, Councillors, Member Smith. This is part of the ongoing series of business improvement and performance reporting. You'll recall that last month we presented on technical advice, and today the discussion is on quality advice more broadly in terms of policy, strategy and operational advice. This is part of the quality advice program that you will have been aware of over the last 12 to 18 months, and it responds in particular to some of the feedback that you've provided through your elected members' surveys. I'd like to introduce Tanya Perrott, who's the lead on this program for Council. Tanya's been doing some fantastic work to progress the quality advice program, and she will present to you today and will answer any questions at the end. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Claire. Madam Chair, Your Worship, Councillors. I've joined Council about 5 months ago to help lead the program after some years in central and local government as an advisor. The program's a really important organisational initiative because it's basically about improving a key service that staff provide you to help you make decisions for Auckland. And I wouldn't want to overstate the role that staff play in those decisions, because clearly you're all drawing on considerable experience and wisdom. And the program is that when staff give you information and advice, it needs to be the best that it really can be. It's not a new program in the sense that Council's already made some initiatives to improve advice, and one of them is the Council developed this guide to providing quality advice at Auckland Council about 18 months ago. A lot of organisations don't have something like this guide, so that's a really good initiative that we're building on. So the focus of the program is on all kinds of advice. So that's both what is often called policy advice, but also what's often called operational advice. We want to improve the advice that staff give you on really big things that impact the whole of Auckland and perhaps even New Zealand, like the unitary plan or alternative funding sources, but also more specific matters, things like giving a community lease to a club to lease part of a park, for example. So the program's relevant to staff right across Council. It's a program which aims to provide advice that's being given to governing body members as well as local body members and IMSB members. While it's focused at the moment on elected members and decision makers around this table and committees and local boards, actually the principles of providing good advice also apply when staff provide advice to the public. So how are we defining what quality advice is? Well, advice is, if you think about it, quite an abstract kind of a thing. The Oxford Dictionary simply defines it as guidance or recommendations offered with regard to prudent action. So it's more of an art than it is a science. It's something that relies on good human relationships as well as technical competence, and in fact the requirements that decision makers have of advice will change depending on the circumstances. And it'd be really interesting to hear your views about what you think quality advice is. There are some bottom lines, however. So, for example, our advice really does need to help Council deliver on its legislative responsibilities. For example, the Local Government Act, which requires that when Council makes decisions, it looks at all practicable options, it assesses their advantages and disadvantages, and also takes into account, for example, the relationship of Māori with respect to ancestral lands, water, sites, etc. For it to be of real quality, often advice needs to do more than that as well. And this guide that was developed for the Council actually outlines 10 quality standards. I think they can be quite nicely summarised though, and on that slide we referred to quality advice being advice that's customer focused, that it's based on credible analysis and it's clearly presented. So what have you told us? So every year elected members get a chance to talk about their level of satisfaction with the support and the advice that staff are giving you. The last survey recorded a significant improvement in your level of satisfaction with the advice that staff are giving you during the 2014 year, but it also recorded that the 3 things that staff could do that would most lift your level of satisfaction are: first, lift the quality of advice given in written reports; secondly, lift the quality of advice given in person at committees and in local board meetings; and thirdly, improve on the timeliness of some of that advice. So clearly it's something that, while you say it's improved, you think it's really important and you're looking for further improvements. When you give us feedback in committee meetings and local board meetings, and also some of the more specific comments that have come through the elected members survey, it's clear that you think that there's some really excellent advice coming from some parts of the council. And, you know, council is the organisation with the best sources of information about Auckland of any organisation in New Zealand. We've got real critical mass of highly trained professionals here: engineers, planners, community development professionals, and the council's also got a really good practice of working in partnership with other organisations and groups. So when you put all of that together with strong advisory disciplines, it can be really, really powerful. However, that doesn't always happen, and you have been signalling that you'd like to see some improvements in some areas of the council. One of the things that we hear from you is that you'd like to see reports being more clearly written and presented, and particularly being clearer about what the decision is that's being sought. Also, we hear, and particularly from local board members, that they would like to see reports come to them more often with options, not just a predetermined solution. We also hear that you'd like to hear more about the financial implications of recommendations that staff are making, that we could do a better job of articulating local board views, and also quite frequently we hear that the Māori impact statements could be improved, and timeliness is still an issue for some parts of the council. So what are we doing about it all? Well, we're in stage 2, if you like, of the program. The first stage was about producing a guide, and some training was made available to council staff to help build their advisory skills. What we're thinking is that we need to now broaden our focus on various parts of the advisory process to really make a difference. So we're wanting to look at commissioning, so that the processes by which staff and elected members agree on what, when and how we provide advice. We're wanting to look at the management of the advisory resources. We're wanting to look at training and development, and also how we're evaluating the quality of advice. So just on commissioning, we're aware that you have to sit in a lot of long meetings and read a lot of material that we provide you. And at the same time, staff also talk about needing to spend a lot of time writing quite urgent reports. It's not always easy to maintain both quantity and quality. It's not always clear either that all of our resources are going into your collective priorities. And this is the sort of thing that a lot of organisations deal with. It's not something unique to the council. The decisions made a couple of months ago by the governing body should really help here in terms of providing greater focus and clarity. What we're looking to do now is support those decisions by working with each committee and local board on forward programs which would outline the advice you require over the next 12 months. The idea is that some contingency for unexpected items would be built into the forward programs, but essentially what we're wanting to do is ask each committee and local board what are, if you like, your 3 top priorities. We'll wrap our advice around those. And so what we're wanting to do is use the forward programs as a device for management to then use as work programming tools. The Auckland Development Committee's already adopted a forward program for the year ahead, as you'll probably be aware, and we're looking at working with each committee and local board over the next few months on this. One of the things that the Auckland Development Committee has also done is made sure that the agenda is focused on decision items. So while information items can still be accessed, they're not there for discussion at the formal meeting. And that's a practice we think would also be useful for other committees and local boards. So really the intention of all of this is to focus on your collective priorities and to focus on quality. Management. So managers are often actually neglected in advisory improvement programs because the focus tends to go on the advisors, but they're critical, they're really crucial, because if you think about it, they do provide advice, but they're also in the position where they're modelling what is good critical thinking and what is service to decision makers, to their staff. They manage the resources. They're in the position of recruiting staff and developing staff, and they sign the work off. So what we're looking to do is work with select groups of managers who have the greatest influence over the advice that you receive and identify a set of systems and tools that will help them do that job better. This is something still very much in the early stages. Training. So there are 2 courses already available to staff to build their advisory skills. The first is about understanding governance at Auckland Council, and the second is about political report writing, so the art of actually writing. We're about to introduce 2 further courses to complement these, so as a suite. The first of these is a critical thinking course, so that's to strengthen staff's analytical skills, and there's going to be a real big focus in that course on things like better assessing what local impacts are, and Māori impacts and financial impacts. The other course will be very much focused on managers and the art of reviewing advice. We're also looking at, perhaps at somewhat a later date, establishing a community of practice with other councils and with central government. One of the things I discovered when I came into this role is that the Department of Prime Minister and Cabinet is also coordinating a program a bit like this, but across government. They are actually looking at slightly different things to us, but that's because central government and local government tend to have different strengths and weaknesses when it comes to providing advice. I think there's a lot we could actually learn off each other, so this community of practice idea is something we've been discussing with DPMC. And finally, evaluation. The Council's been part of the New Zealand Institute of Economic Research's benchmarking of the quality of policy advice for the last 3 years. We've been benchmarked against 18 government departments and more recently a set of councils as well, and we're about to enter into it for the 4th year. It's a great survey because it's independent, it's got some standard technical criteria, and so it's a great technical evaluation. However, it's not sufficient by itself because it doesn't really build ownership to learning and development within the council. So what we're proposing to do is beef up our self-evaluation. One of the ideas that we may introduce is to set up some kind of peer review panel, which might rotate, and staff get to learn how to evaluate as well as what is good advice. The other thing we really want to do is enhance the evaluation that elected members provide us. And one of the possibilities there is to supplement the elected member survey with some face-to-face interviews. We'd be really interested in hearing your views on how you would like to be involved, if at all. So that's it, councillors. It's a program that's focused on all kinds of advice. There's 4 areas of focus: management, commissioning, training and evaluation. As you can probably hear, there are some new initiatives that are being introduced right now, and there's some other initiatives that are underway, and I expect this program will be an ongoing part of organisational improvement. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's very interesting. And questions, comments? I've got...
Yeah. Look, Madam Chair, for a start, I think it's a critical part of the work we do. We sit around this table long enough and often enough and read enough reports. And the one thing that we've tried to do in the recent 2 or 3 years in particular is to give the officers better directions as to what they're putting in their reports to us and seek